Hi everyone, and welcome to Exploring the Build. If you've just found this place, then welcome, and if you're returning, I'm glad to have you back. I'm Alex, and this is my channel where we explore and theorycraft different character builds for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. Today, we are doing another one of our quick builds, where we'll be exploring a briefly summarized character build for D&D 5e. And as always with our quick builds, if there's ever a specific build you'd like to see me explore in the future, be sure to let me know in the comments below. The concept for today's video comes from Asta Backman, who asked if we would be able to make a Paladin whose dump stats are both strength and dexterity. The build is supposed to take a single level of Hexblade just as a dip, make sure that we can attack through our charisma, and then thematically we want to become a Paladin that fights for our patron rather than a god, with the rest of the build being more of a healing, charming tank type character. Honestly, all in all, this is a pretty straightforward build with the unique restrictions of just one level of Hexblade, no more, no less, and then also trying to pick up features to make us more of a healer, tank, damage dealer, and honestly, being a full charisma-based character should be a fairly interesting breakdown. Starting in character creation with our lineage, we want to be pretty much anything. The build doesn't have any specific restrictions that would relate to our lineage, so pick whatever sort of lineage you'd like to actually make this character work with. Well, there's no real restriction on our background, and anything can really be flavored to work well with a warrior who fights for a patron / weapon rather than an actual god or deity type figure. So whether you wanted to start out as someone who was a bit more religious in nature and then got converted, or if you wanted to start out as someone who's just always had a bond with this weapon, that could work too. Looking at our stats, this is where we actually do have a restriction. Strength and dexterity, those are both our dump stats. We'll just leave both of those at 8 from point buy and forget about them. Constitution, we want to put 7 points into to get to 14. Intelligence, we'll come back to in a sec. Wisdom, we're also going to put 7 points in order to make that a 14. And charisma, we want to put 9 points into, rounding that off at 15, but then we're going to be a custom lineage for our lineage, and we're going to take either Fey Touched or Shadow Touched, your preference. I'm more partial to Fey Touched just because the spells that you get are a little bit better, but Shadow Touched is pretty cool as well. But with Fey Touched, we can round off our charisma again, getting it to a total of 18 right away at level 1. Now with the remaining 4 points, we'll go back, put that into intelligence, have the following ability scores overall. 8 strength, 8 dexterity, 14 constitution, 12 intelligence, 14 wisdom, and 18 charisma. We're actually a really durable character, surprisingly, in terms of our mental stats and our health. Our dexterity / initiative is going to suffer, of course, and strength is a throwaway, but it could always have been a throwaway. It's not too important all the time. Starting into our level breakdown now, honestly, we're just looking at levels 1 to 10. 11 and higher really are going to be more up to you based on what you would want to go with and are very free form. But levels 1 to 10 are not only where the build comes together, but also where our restrictions just completely get taken care of. Level 1, right away, we're going Hexblade. We want to make sure that we can attack with our charisma right from the get-go, and that's also part of the restriction of the build. So it's nice to just get it out of the way. Beyond the Hex Warrior feature that lets us use our charisma to attack, we also get Hexblade's Curse, which is a nice single target, extra damage buff for us, debuff for the enemy because they'll die faster. Whatever you want to count it as, it's a nice extra feature. After that, from levels 2 all the way up to 10, we're just going Paladin. At level 3, our subclass of Paladin does get picked, and this is where there's an important choice. We're going to want to go with the Redemption Paladin. The reason being is that the channel divinity for the Redemption Paladin is Emissary of Peace. There's the other damage-focused one, which usually I'm more focused on because that's a mechanical combat-based benefit. But part of the restriction of this build is that we want to be a charmer. And nothing's going to make us more of a charmer than using our channel divinity to get a flat +5 on all charisma persuasion checks. That's a really awesome charm feature, and we just can't pass that up. The nice thing is that at level 7, we gain another feature that's helpful for the restrictions of this build, and that is Aura of the Guardian. Aura of the Guardian says that it is a 10-foot aura around us, where whenever an ally of ours suffers damage, we can suffer that damage for them instead, which is exactly how we're going to become a tank. We can literally now tank damage for our allies. Having a nice AC and a high health pool is fine, and we're going to definitely want the high health pool. That's all just durability, nothing that's actually specifically about tanking damage. This allows us to suffer damage for our allies, protecting them, making us an actual tank. And at level 9, we can mitigate that through healing. We will be able to pick up the concentration spell, Aura of Vitality. Aura of Vitality is a classic healing spell, and we'll just hopefully have it up for concentration for the full minute, and as a bonus action on each of our turns for the duration of the spell, we can just heal a creature within 30 feet of us for 2d6 hit points. Now it's up to you whether you want to take damage with your reaction from Aura of the Guardian and then heal yourself up every turn, or whether you'd rather let your allies take damage and then heal them up one by one. I'm probably more inclined to say we're just going to be a health battery for our allies, where we'll protect one of them with our reaction, and then we'll just heal ourselves on our turn with our bonus action, possibly using Lay on Hands if we really have to. And then, of course, in a pinch, you could let your allies suffer damage and then focus on healing them. Keep in mind that every time we take damage, whether it's from actually taking damage ourselves or from using our Aura of the Guardian reaction, that's an extra concentration saving throw that we'd have to do and succeed on in order to try and maintain Aura of Vitality. So it's probably worth it to eventually invest in either Warcaster for advantage on saves, or Resilient Constitution for proficiency in Constitution saves. We will have Aura of Protection as well, which will just be a flat +5 bonus. So we're obviously going to increase our Charisma to 20 as early as possible, and that's just a really awesome bonus to our own saves and to the saves of our allies as well, since we want to stand close to them to protect them with Aura of the Guardian anyways. Now, then we'd also be able to protect them with Aura of Protection. And we're just a really very good team support character in terms of both tanking damage and healing. It's actually working out very well for us. Not to mention, we can deal damage by smiting with our attacks, and our attacks are charisma based, so they're automatically really, really strong already. And of course, depending on what spell you picked as your first level spell that you get from Fey Touch the Feet, that means that we could also have a little bit of utility there too, or possibly extra damage or something if you wanted that. You could have picked up a spell like Bless, which would have been really nice for being a support. You also could have picked up like Hunter's Mark or Hex, but you could also picked up Hex from being a Warlock. So if you wanted more damage for a little while, you could use those. But either way, once we have Aura of Vitality, that becomes our go-to concentration spell. At levels 11 and higher, well, you can pick whatever you want. And the reason I say that is because there's honestly so much we could do. We could just continue up Paladin and get to level 19. We wouldn't get the 20th level Paladin capstone, that's really awesome, that are usually pretty powerful, but 19 levels of Paladin still at least increases our Aura of the Guardian and Aura of Protection radius, so then we'd only have to stand within 30 feet of our allies. That's not too bad. The other option would be go something like Sorcerer or Bard. Both of those could be built to be more supportive or even grab some control type spells, and also since they're charisma, they just synergize really, really well with us. We're not going to go up any more Warlock because our restriction was a single level dip, but if you did go Warlock, that would also work very well since it synergizes so nicely too. And overall, we're just a really good character in terms of synergy. I think this build kind of proves, if you weren't already convinced enough, that Charisma is just one of the best ability scores in D&D 5e. You can do pretty much everything with it. You can use it for damage. You can use it for defensive benefits like Aura of Protection. You can use it for out-of-combat features or to avoid combat entirely through Persuasion or Deception, Intimidation, any of those skills, which of course we'd want to have in order to make sure that we are a charming character. We're just a sort of jack of all trades without even investing too much into being a jack of all trades. And we actually could be a jack of all trades by going Bard and picking up jack of all trades. We've got so many options that the world is really our oyster, and it's just whatever you'd like to pick up. So now it's time to summarize the build. Honestly, like I was just saying, we're a jack of all trades. We can pretty much do it all. We're a healer, a tank, a damage dealer, and we're also an out-of-combat, charming character. We are pretty much Dungeons & Dragons as a whole. The sides we're sort of lacking on are the control aspect. Plus, the Redemption Paladin actually has access to some control-type spells like Sleep, Sanctuary, Calm Emotions, Hold Person. Honestly, we can pretty much do anything that a full party would get access to. The one thing I will mention that I didn't talk about in our levels 11 and up is if we went back to Cleric, of all things. And if we did go Cleric, we could pick up Life Cleric, which would just provide a bonus to our healing spells, like Aura of Vitality, through Disciple of Life. Disciple of Life says anytime we use a healing spell, not cast it, use it, it also adds the extra bonus healing to the spell. It's 2 plus the spell's level. Aura of Vitality is level 3. That means that we would be healing for 2d6 plus 5 every single time we used that spell, if we just did a 1 level dip into Cleric as well. Overall, just a whole plethora of options for how to make this build even better, and it's already really, really good, just from being a Paladin with a single level dip into Hexblade. All in all, we are the healer tank damage dealer, and I think that's perfectly a-okay. Let me know what you thought of the build, or what you might change or add in, if there was anything really to change or add in. Or honestly, let me know what route you would go after getting to level 10 to just see what you would add to this charisma-based build. Thank you so much for coming on the journey with me, and I hope to see you in the next one.